Welcome to Braintree Today. I'm Martha Constantinidis and you're watching BCAM TV. Before getting into our COVID-19 updates, according to a story in the New York Times, President Trump recently met with senior officials to discuss possible military options aimed at Iran's uranium stockpile. Those stockpiles had reached 12 times the 300-kilogram limit set in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the landmark nuclear deal Iran signed with the United States and 5 other nations in 2015. President Trump took the U.S. out of the deal in 2018. Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, persuaded the president not to act, citing the possibility of a major escalation with Iran. Back to our COVID-19 updates. As many already know, Pfizer recently announced a COVID-19 vaccine that many are saying is 90% effective. Following this announcement on Monday, November 16th, Moderna announced its COVID-19 virus vaccine, and many trials of the vaccine are proving to be highly effective. This is a second ray of hope following Pfizer's announcement in the global race for a shot to tame the resurgent virus that is now killing more than 8,000 people a day worldwide. The company said its vaccine appears to be 94.5% effective, according to preliminary data from Moderna's ongoing study. This week, Massachusetts reported 21 deaths Thursday, November 12th, bringing the state's total of confirmed deaths related to the virus above 10,000. The state also designated 30 communities as high risk in the latest town-by-town data, up from 16 last week. The positive test rate over the last 2 weeks increased in 223 of the 351 communities in Massachusetts. Statewide, there are 20.7 average daily cases per 100,000 residents, up from 15.3 last week. Officials from the state's Department of Public Health believe there are currently more than 30,000 active coronavirus cases in Massachusetts, after reporting another 2,076 confirmed cases on Sunday, November 15th. Long lines developed Monday, November 16th outside at least 2 of Massachusetts' free COVID-19 testing sites, causing one to close the queue to newcomers and another to ask people to wait in a separate parking lot. In Framingham, city officials said the line for testing outside the TJX headquarters was so long that it had to be split into 2 parking lots to avoid clogging the main street. Framingham Mayor Yvonne Spicer claims the high demand is due to a spike in cases and because anyone can get tested at the state-sponsored facility for free. Spicer said, quote, "That puts a strain on the staff trying to manage it. On Veterans Day, over 600 people came through in a 4-hour period." End quote. Following more COVID-19 updates, Massachusetts residents will no longer be able to travel to Maine without providing a negative COVID-19 test or complying with a quarantine. The change went into effect Monday, November 16th, and includes Maine residents who are returning from Massachusetts. New Hampshire and Vermont are the only 2 states that Maine allows residents and travelers to come and go freely. Maine stopped banning travelers from Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey on November 4th. This week, Clark University and Westfield State University decided to transition to remote learning and urged students to move off campus as coronavirus cases continue to rise. Clark University announced the switch to remote learning in a letter to the community on Monday, November 16th, after 5 people tested positive for coronavirus overnight. Classes are suspended at Clark until Wednesday, and remote coursework begins Thursday. Students are encouraged to leave campus as soon as possible and get tested. In the letter sent to students, the president of Clark University, David Fivian, said, quote, "While this is not an emergency situation, it is serious. We are taking steps out of an abundance of caution," end quote. Here's a clip from Boston Mayor Marty Walsh discussing how college students should handle COVID-19 during the holidays.
If you go home for Thanksgiving, you should not be returning to Boston this semester. You should do the rest of your learning remotely. I want to thank Emerson College and Suffolk University for simplifying the issue. They're going fully remote for Thanksgiving. And I want to thank Boston University and Harvard for letting their students know they should not return in person if they go home for Thanksgiving. And I want to thank all the college universities who are taking some of the versions of this approach as we move forward. I'm asking all colleges and all universities to take similar steps.
Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker held a press conference on Tuesday, November 17th, where he nominated Justice Serge George Jr. from the Boston Municipal Courts to the Supreme Judicial Court, the latest in a series of historic picks that could reshape the High Court. We'll have more on this story on Friday, November 20th. Stay tuned for more on Braintree Today. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Braintree Today. Since last week, Braintree Town Hall has reported 41 new cases, bringing the total number of positive cases in the town up to 1,305. The town hasn't reported any new fatalities in about 3 months, which has kept the death toll in Braintree at 120. This week, the Quincy-based Stop & Shop has signed on to be among the first pharmacies in the country to administer future coronavirus vaccines when one is authorized by the FDA. The Federal Department of Health and Human Services recently announced a list of chain and community pharmacy networks that will be a part of vaccine distribution. Stop & Shop said it will be available to its customers for free at any of its 250 pharmacy locations in the Northeast. Other chains with Boston area supermarkets joining the effort include Star Market, Shaw's, Hannaford's, Price Chopper, Market 32, and Wegmans. On another note, this week Wind Development of Boston and our communities of Needham proposed building 44 units of housing and a public walkway along the Manatequit River on the site of the former Braintree electric light generating plant on Allen Street. Under the proposal, Wind Development would pay the town $1.5 million for the property, and the site would range from studios to 3-bedroom units, with 11 units set aside as workforce housing for tenants who meet income requirements. Members of the Ways and Means Committee expressed support for the proposal. Braintree's Chief of Staff, Nicole Taub, told Braintree's Committee of Ways and Means on Thursday night she believes, quote, "This is a huge step forward," end quote. The project schedule for the development calls for it to go through the permitting process in 2021 and construction to be finished by the end of 2023. Taub said the town hopes to complete the sale of the property before the end of the budget year on June 30th. Now here's Petra Lynch with last week's Ways and Means meeting.
The Committee of Ways and Means met last week on Thursday, November 12th, and were provided an update on the first quarter fiscal year 2021 budget by Town Solicitor Nicole Taub, which was a high-level overview of the town's larger revenue streams that included state aid, meals and rooms tax, licenses and permits fees, CARES Act and FEMA reimbursements, grant opportunities, and updates from town departments and the golf course. As opposed to a reduction, which was expected due to the pandemic, there was an increase in state aid of a surplus under $43,000 with a potential of additional funding of $13,000. The CARES Act and FEMA will also be reimbursing the town for actual and eligible costs that incurred to perform COVID-19 emergency response measures, which included the purchasing of PPEs, disinfectant and cleaning supplies, and the overtime that incurred for first responders and employees due to the pandemic. After submitting the actual and projected costs for the CARES Act reimbursement, a full value of eligible reimbursement remaining was over $3 million. The town was also recently rewarded a block grant of $320,000, which would offer assistance to local small businesses. Here is District 5 Councilor Meredith Barica and Town Solicitor Nicole Taub with questions and answers on this grant.
And then on the $320,000 block grant for small business assistance, how is that going to work? Do small businesses in town apply to the mayor's office for that? Do they need to, how is that going to?
So we've just recently been notified of the award. And so we're working through kind of what that process is going to look like. It's going to go for, it's specific for, I believe, rental assistance.
Okay.
And businesses have to have, I think it's 5 or less full-time employees in order to be eligible. And there's a maximum amount each business is eligible to receive. But Director Stickney is actually working on the parameters of that, and hopefully we'll be able to put something out soon.
Then the golf course's revenue for the first quarter of the fiscal year 2021 has doubled compared to its revenue from fiscal year 2019. Here is Town Solicitor Nicole Tabb with more details.
For the first quarter of fiscal 21, they made 57.12% of their overall budget for the year, which is significant. They are up. Their first quarter revenue has almost doubled from fiscal year 19, and also significant increase over fiscal year 20. Even better is when you add the revenue earned in October to the July through September earnings, they've earned a total of almost $1,348,830, or 69.19% of their total budget for the year.
The committee also went over Town Clerk Jim Casey's proposal to permanently implement the changes made to polling locations for this year's election, which consolidated the town's 12 precincts into the 3 voting centers that were Braintree High School, East Middle School, and South Middle School.
You're good, Jim.
Town Clerk Jim Casey reasoned that, quote, there would be a continued trend of voters not showing up on Election Day. They will be taking one of the other 4 options to cast their ballots, end quote. Here is Town Clerk Jim Casey with more details on trends.
In 2020, another voter choice was given, and that was voting by mail, in addition to the early voting in person. So we went from 20,000 to 14,000 to 7,500 voters. And you can see that tends to be in line with the other elections that we tend to hold, that people, we see a decline in the actual election date because they have the option, these choices.
He also explained that consolidating the polling locations would reduce costs, allow additional staff to be on site at the 3 locations, make moving ballots more efficient, and allow them to move out of the elementary schools, a call that has been going on for years. Some members of the committee were opposed to this idea because of the location's lack of accessibility to public transportation. However, Town Clerk Jim Casey countered,
whether we're at 3 voting centers or 12 polling locations, those issues exist. Not all polling locations have public transportation. Two of the voting centers today are existing polling locations. That would be East Middle School, because we're going to be moving back to there if we go to the 12 voting centers, because that was only a temporary move to the Council of Elder Affairs. And then South Middle School has always been a polling location.
There were committee members who were in favor of the proposal, which included District 3 Councilor Donna Connors, who explained,
a little bit of insider information. I don't know if people are aware, but I did volunteer to be a poll worker for all 3 elections. I was there from 6 a.m. till the end for every one of them. And I can say it went incredibly smooth. The clerk's department in just phenomenal job in making this happen. The first go round, we had a list of how we could improve, and those lists of improvements were given to Mr. Casey. They immediately took action, corrected those. In the second election, it went even better. There was never a line, anybody handicap accessible. Again, no issues with that. I can honestly say I was against going down to 3 schools or 3 locations for this polling. And I can definitively say after living it and knowing what the clerk's office goes through and knowing now how it works and how all the little bugs that they had to work out on November 3rd and the panic mode that we were in for a little bit when computers, it was incredible to see the department come together and the department do what they did. And I will fully 100% support this because it is so doable.
The meeting ended with a vote on recommending the proposal to the full council with 2 opposed, 2 in favor, and 1 member voting present.
Thanks, Petra. Make sure to tune in Friday for more updates on Town Council and Planning Board. We'll be right back with more news in the area. Stay tuned. Welcome back, Braintree. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, there will be no ice skating at the Frog Pond on the Boston Common this winter. The City of Boston made the announcement on Twitter Friday afternoon, saying, quote, "We look forward to welcoming skaters to the ice next year," end quote. The Frog Pond is a public-private partnership with the City of Boston and the Skating Club of Boston. Although the rink will be closed, Gillette Stadium has a socially distanced event you can attend this year. Fun Guys Events teamed up with Gillette Stadium to host the Magic of Lights drive-through lights experience. Magic of Lights features dazzling theme light displays using the latest LED technology and digital animations. The drive-through is a mile long and features a blizzard tunnel and lit-up representations of the 12 Days of Christmas, Winter Wonderland, and the Night Before Christmas, all of which can be experienced from the safety of your own car. The light show opened this past Friday and will be around all holiday season through January 2nd. For more information on tickets and scheduling, you can visit magicoflights.com. On another note, a Stoughton road worker was injured in a Braintree crash on Sunday morning when police say a drunk driver going the wrong way on Route 3 hit a police cruiser and a contractor's truck. During a detail on a construction site on the southbound side of Route 3, a 24-year-old Christopher Fay of Abington crashed into the cruiser and a Chevrolet 4500 flatbed work truck just after 5 a.m. The state trooper was not injured in the crash, yet the 53-year-old contractor was taken to South Shore Hospital with minor injuries. The driver suffered non-life-threatening injuries in the crash and was also taken to South Shore Hospital. Police say Fay will face charges for drunk driving, negligent operation of a motor vehicle, having an open container of alcohol in the car, and driving the wrong way. According to a press conference from November 16th, Climate Mayors announced that Boston Mayor Martin Walsh has been named chair of the coalition of 468 U.S. mayors committed to bold environmental action and upholding the Paris Climate Agreement. In his role, Mayor Walsh will help catalyze efforts to combat climate change at the local level, provide an example of climate action for leaders at all levels of government, and advocate for an economic recovery founded in equity and environmental stewardship. Here's more from Walsh's press conference on November 17th.
I'm honored, I'm grateful to have been named the new chair of this organization. Today we're going to talk about climate action that will help our country recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. We face considerable challenges, but we have more reasons to be of hope and optimism right now than we've had in a long time. We have an opportunity moving forward with a partner in Washington that works with us, that believes in science.
On Sunday night, the New England Patriots faced the Baltimore Ravens. The Pats held their own against one of the top contenders in the AFC, outdoing the Baltimore Ravens both on defense and in the ground game. Under heavy rainfall, the Patriots secure the upset and their second straight win, a 23-17 decision. The Ravens will be back at home in Week 11 when they're set to play against the Tennessee Titans, following their Thursday night loss to the Colts. Meanwhile, the Patriots will hit the road to take on the Houston Texans, who are fresh off a loss to the Browns. In more news, Melanie Anderson from Braintree entered the Greatest Baker competition and finished first place in her group after voting in the second round concluded Thursday. If she wins the competition, she wins the $10,000 prize. Anderson said, quote, "I would love to be able to open up my own bakery right here in Braintree, and winning this competition would be a huge help in getting me to that goal," end quote. You can vote on the competition's website at greatestbaker.com, and be sure to check out Melanie's website at boss10cupcakes.com. South Middle School 8th grader Luanna Kelly was presented with a citation in recognition of her generosity and kindness by Mayor Kokoris. Luanna donated her homemade mass at Town Hall for veterans in the community in honor of her grandparents who both served in World War II. Luanna was featured on the town of Braintree's Twitter with Kokoris holding her award. The town of Braintree announced this week that the Thayer Library will be expanding their evening hours after cutbacks due to the coronavirus pandemic. Starting November 16th, the library will open Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Curbside service will continue to be offered Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you would like to check out books using Thayer's curbside service, please call 781-848-0405. Or you can head over to ocln.org to place holds online 24 hours a day. The Thayer Public Library in Braintree will also be having a virtual coffee event with a local artist on Wednesday, December 2nd from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. This virtual event is free to the public, but you must register through the event calendar on the website at www.thayerpubliclibrary.org, or you can call the reference department at 781-848-0405. Keep in mind, registration for this event ends at 4 p.m. on December 2nd. That is all we have for news today. Thank you so much for tuning into Braintree Today, and stay tuned for more on BCAM TV. I'm Martha Constantinidis, and see you next time.